Welcome back to WealthWise, the podcast where clarity meets strategy. Do you ever feel like you're playing the game right? You're working hard, you're getting promotions, but when you look at your bank account, the numbers just don't reflect the effort? It's a quiet frustration so many of us feel, a sense that our money is somehow slipping through our fingers no matter how tightly we clench our fists. Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on that exact feeling. We're diving deep into the silent financial traps that are secretly draining your wealth. And there is no one better to help us navigate this topic than my guest today. He's a renowned financial strategist, a best-selling author, and honestly one of the sharpest minds when it comes to demystifying the world of money. He is Max Wise. Max, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Sarah, the pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me.
For everyone listening, stay tuned, because in this episode, you are going to learn 3 critical things. First, why most of us have our financial priorities completely backward. Second, the hard truth about fake wealth and why a high credit score might actually be a trap. And most importantly, how to shift from a gambler's mindset to a builder's strategy for long-term wealth. So let's get right into it. Max, it's great to have you. So let's just dive right in. Why do you think these fundamental financial mistakes are so widespread? We're not talking about people who aren't trying. We're talking about smart, ambitious, high-earning individuals who still fall into these traps. What's going on here? Why is this topic so misunderstood?
Sarah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer, I believe, is a powerful cocktail of modern psychology and brilliant marketing. We live in what I call an Instagram-first economy. Our value is often measured by what we can display, not what we actually own. The pressure to look rich has become more powerful than the discipline required to actually be rich. And financial institutions, for all the good they can do, are masters at selling us dreams, not realities. They've successfully pushed 2 of the most pervasive and damaging myths into our collective consciousness.
Okay, let's unpack those. What's the first one?
The first is the myth of the credit score. The financial industry has done a masterful job of selling us the idea that an 800 credit score is a golden ticket. But what is a credit score really? It's not a wealth score, it's a debt score. It's an indicator of how good you are at borrowing money and paying it back on time. It says absolutely nothing about your assets, your investments, or your net worth. You can have a perfect credit score and be completely broke. In fact, many people are. They're just, well, managed broke people.
That's such a powerful reframe. A debt score, not a wealth score. So what's the second big myth?
The second one is the great American dream, the house. We're constantly told your home is the biggest and best investment you'll ever make. And listen, while home ownership can be a great asset, for many people it becomes the biggest liability they ever own. It's a machine for making other people rich. The bank, through decades of interest payments, the insurance company, the government through property taxes, the contractors for maintenance. The realtor and the mortgage broker tell you it's an investment to get you to sign the paperwork. They get their commission check and disappear. You're the one left for the next 30 years, hoping the market goes up enough to cover all those costs.
It's a system designed to look like it's for us, but it often works against us. Do you have a story or a case that really illustrates this disconnect?
I have the perfect one. I had a consultation a while back with a young, incredibly bright software engineer from Silicon Valley. He was asking me about sophisticated tax loss harvesting strategies and complex legacy planning for his future children. He was using all the right buzzwords. So I paused and asked him about his foundation, his savings, his debt. And after a bit of digging, it turned out he had exactly $44 in his savings account and was thousands of dollars in high-interest credit card debt. He was trying to solve a problem he didn't have yet. He was, in financial terms, trying to run an Olympic marathon before he'd even learned to crawl. And that, right there, is the core of the problem for so many people. They're focused on the finish line without ever building a starting block.
That's a powerful and, frankly, a very common story.
It feels like we're all given the pieces to the financial puzzle, but no one ever gave us the picture on the box lid. So let's provide that picture. Let's break this down into actionable steps, starting with that very first piece you mentioned, getting our priorities straight.
So let's provide that picture. Let's break this down into actionable steps. You mentioned this powerful metaphor earlier, Max, about the software engineer running before he could crawl. It feels like the perfect starting point. Could you break down what the crawl, walk, run framework actually looks like in finance and pinpoint the single biggest mistake people are making within it?
Absolutely. This framework is the most fundamental concept I teach, because if you get this wrong, nothing else matters. It's the foundation upon which all wealth is built, or in most cases, crumbles. The crawl phase is when you are in what I call financial quicksand. This is any high-interest, non-productive debt. We're talking about credit card debt at 22%, payday loans, personal loans for vacations. This debt isn't an inconvenience. It's a 5-alarm fire. It's a 20-pound weight chained to your ankle while you're trying to swim. And here's the biggest mistake. People in the crawl phase are trying to invest. They hear about the stock market returning an average of 10% a year and think, I should be doing that. But they're ignoring the mathematical certainty on the other side of the equation. Paying off a 22% interest credit card is the equivalent of getting a guaranteed, tax-free 22% return on your money. There is no investment on planet Earth that can safely offer you that. So when you're in the crawl phase, you have one job and one job only. Become a debt-destroying machine. Your sole focus, your obsession, should be getting that balance to zero.
So it's not about multitasking, it's about a singular, ruthless focus. Okay, so once the fire is out, what's the walk phase?
The walk phase is your first taste of financial stability. You're debt-free, and now your primary goal is to build a psychological firewall. This is your emergency fund. I tell people to start with a goal of at least $2,000, but ideally, you want 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses saved. And let's be crystal clear. This is not a vacation fund. This is not a down payment fund. This is the Life Happens Fund. This is the money that ensures a car repair, a surprise medical bill, or a broken furnace doesn't send you right back into the crawl phase, swiping that credit card all over again. The emergency fund is what breaks the cycle of debt. It's the most powerful, unsexy financial tool that exists. People skip this step all the time because it feels like dead money sitting in a savings account. But in reality, it's the guardian at the gate of your financial future.
I love that, a psychological firewall. It's buying you peace of mind, not just financial security, which I imagine finally brings us to the run phase.
Exactly. The run phase is where wealth is actually built. This is what everyone romanticizes. This is where you're actively acquiring assets, investing in the stock market through low-cost index funds, buying cash-flowing real estate, starting a business. This is where your money finally starts working for you instead of you working for it. The fatal error, as we discussed, is that people in the crawl phase are reading books and watching videos about the run phase. They're strategizing about a game they aren't even on the field for yet. You have to earn the right to run. You do that by crawling out of debt and then learning to walk with the stability of an emergency fund.
That's so clear and logical when you lay it out. It's a sequence, not a buffet where you can pick and choose.
Precisely. You can't win the race of investing if you're still chained to the starting block of debt.
Okay, so once we're debt-free and have our emergency fund, we're in the walk or early run phase. The next big hurdle appears societal pressure. Specifically, the pressure to buy a house and look successful. You touched on this earlier, that a house isn't always the great investment we think it is. So where is that line between buying a home for your family and falling into this fake rich trap?
Okay, so once we're debt-free and have our emergency fund, we're in the walk or early run phase. The next big hurdle appears: societal pressure. Specifically, the pressure to buy a house and look successful. You touched on this earlier, that a house isn't always the great investment we think it is. So where is that line between buying a home for your family and falling into this fake rich trap?
And the interest, right? That's the hidden killer.
It's the silent killer. Most people don't realize that on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, the loan is front-loaded with interest. For the first 10 to 15 years, the vast majority of your monthly payment is pure interest going straight into the bank's pocket. You're building almost no equity. You are essentially a renter, but your landlord is the bank, and you're also responsible for all the maintenance. It's the worst of both worlds in those early years. If you sell the house after 5 years, you might walk away with almost nothing after accounting for all the costs and closing fees, even if the house appreciated in value.
So how do we avoid this trap? How do we buy a home responsibly so it's a blessing, not a curse?
You do it by using a simple, non-negotiable rule. I call it the 75-15-10 rule. It's based on your take-home pay, the money that actually hits your bank account. 75% is the maximum you can spend. This is your entire lifestyle. This includes your mortgage or rent, your car payment, your groceries, your vacations, your Netflix subscription, everything. It's your ceiling. 15% is the minimum you must invest. This is non-negotiable. This is the money that goes into your run phase assets. Your 401k, your Roth IRA, your brokerage account. This is your wealth building engine. 10% is the minimum you save. This is for your short-term goals and for replenishing your emergency fund. If the house you want pushes your total lifestyle costs above that 75% threshold and forces you to sacrifice your 15% investment minimum, you cannot afford that house. It's that simple. You are choosing to look rich today at the expense of actually being rich tomorrow. Your realtor and your banker get rich the day you sign the papers. Whether you get rich from the deal is a 30-year question mark.
This is an incredibly powerful framework, Max. It's all about building a system that protects you from yourself. So let's say we've navigated the debt, we have our savings, we're living within our 75%. Now it's time to actually deploy that 15%, the run phase. But here, as you said, people often swing between two dangerous extremes, being too scared to do anything or too reckless, treating the stock market like a casino. How do we find that healthy, productive balance?
You've perfectly described the paradox of risk. On one end, you have the scarcity mindset, and on the other, the gambler's mindset. The scarcity mindset is a person who has done everything right up to this point, but they're so afraid of losing the money they worked so hard to save that they paralyze themselves. This is the doctor I mentioned in the source material, with $500,000 sitting in a savings account earning 0.1% interest. They are so terrified of the risk of losing money that they don't see the certainty of losing purchasing power to inflation every single day. They won't spend $500 on a course that could increase their income by $5,000 because they only see the $500 leaving their account. They're protecting their seeds so fiercely that they never plant them, guaranteeing they'll never have a harvest.
And the other side of that coin is the gambler.
Exactly. The gambler is seduced by the excitement. They don't want the slow, boring path to wealth. They want the rush. They're chasing meme stocks, day trading options, or throwing all their money into a highly speculative cryptocurrency that their friend's cousin's roommate said was the next big thing. This isn't investing, it's gambling disguised with financial jargon. The psychological trap is that you hear one story of a guy who turned $1,000 into $100,000, but you don't hear about the 999 people who turned $1,000 into $50 and were too embarrassed to talk about it. This path almost always ends in the same way. You lose your money, you become jaded, and you swear off investing forever, retreating back into the scarcity mindset.
So, if it's not scarcity and it's not gambling, what is the third way? What is the healthy mindset?
It's the owner's mindset. The wealthy don't hoard and they don't gamble. They own. They understand that when you buy a share of a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, you're not buying a lottery ticket. You are a tiny sliver of 500 of the most profitable, innovative, and resilient companies in the world. You are a part owner of Apple, of Microsoft, of Amazon. The owner's mindset is patient. It's long-term. Frankly, it's boring, and that's its superpower. True wealth building should feel like watching paint dry. You systematically invest your 15% every single month, in good markets and in bad, and you let the power of time and compound interest do the heavy lifting. The excitement doesn't come from watching the daily stock ticker. It comes 10, 20, 30 years later, when you look at your account and realize you've built a mountain of wealth, one boring brick at a time. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Your only job is to be on the patient side of that transaction.
Crawl, walk, run. The 75-15-10 rule and the owner's mindset. That's an incredibly powerful trifecta of ideas. It really boils down to having a system and the discipline to stick with it. And that focus on mindset makes me wonder about your own journey.
Crawl, walk, run. The 75-15-10 rule and the owner's mindset. That's an incredibly powerful trifecta of ideas, Max. It really boils down to having a system and the discipline to stick with it. And that focus on mindset, especially the distinction between the owner and the gambler, makes me wonder about your own journey. We hear your wisdom now, but I have to ask, have you ever personally been on the wrong side of that line? Was there a failure, a misstep, or a breakthrough moment that forever shaped the philosophy you teach today?
Sarah, if any financial expert tells you they haven't, they're either lying or they haven't been in the game long enough. Of course I have. And my story is a textbook example of the Vegas mistake we just talked about. It was early in my career. I was young, I had a bit of success, I had some money saved up, and frankly, I thought I was invincible. I thought I was smarter than the market. I was reading everything, analyzing charts, and I felt I could spot opportunities that others couldn't. There was this small biotech company that was generating a massive amount of buzz. It had a promising drug in late-stage trials, and the story was intoxicating. The narrative was perfect. Every forum, every expert on TV was talking about it. It felt like one of those can't-miss opportunities.
The fear of missing out, FOMO, is a powerful force.
It's the most powerful financial drug on the planet. And I was completely addicted. I didn't just dip my toe in. I convinced myself this was the one. I took a significant portion of my savings, way more than any sane portfolio allocation would ever allow, and I YOLO'd it, as the kids say today. I pushed all my chips in. For the first week, I felt like a genius. The stock jumped 15%. I was already calculating my future returns, picturing myself telling people how I saw it coming when no one else did. The arrogance was palpable. But then, the market did what the market does. Some ambiguous news came out about the trial. The stock dropped 10%. No big deal, I told myself. It's just a healthy pullback. The weak hands are getting shaken out.
The classic self-justification. I think we've all been there.
Absolutely. Then, a week later, a competitor announced a breakthrough and the stock fell another 20%. Now the panic started to creep in. That sick, hollow feeling in the pit of your stomach. I was checking my phone every 5 minutes. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't an investor anymore. I was a hostage to a ticker symbol on a screen. The final blow came when the company announced a delay in their FDA submission. The bottom fell out. I finally sold, walking away with a nearly 60% loss. I just couldn't take it anymore. Staring at that number, that loss was one of the most humbling and painful moments of my professional life. But here's the breakthrough, the eureka moment you asked about. The pain wasn't just about the money. It was about the realization of why I had lost it. I hadn't done real due diligence. I had bought a story, not a business. I had traded discipline for excitement. I had violated every single rule of sound investing because I wanted the dopamine hit of a quick win. That failure was the most expensive and most valuable tuition I ever paid. It was to the University of Wall Street, and the main lesson was that building real, sustainable wealth is supposed to be boring. It's systematic, it's patient, and it's disciplined. That loss taught me to seek wealth not in the thrill of the gamble, but in the quiet confidence of ownership. It changed everything for me. The market doesn't care how smart you think you are. That 60% loss was the most expensive tuition I ever paid, and it taught me that true wealth is built on a foundation of boring, consistent discipline, not a lottery ticket of excitement.
Wow. Max, thank you for sharing that with such candor. It's a powerful reminder that the principles you teach were forged in real-world fire. So let's take that hard-won wisdom and look forward. The world is changing faster than ever. AI, new technologies, global shifts. If you had to bet on one single shift over the next 3 to 5 years that will define financial success for the average person, what would it be?
That's a great question. It's not a new technology, a specific cryptocurrency, or a hot stock sector. The single most important shift will be the rise of what I call financial knowledge sovereignty. Let me explain what I mean. We're moving from an era of information scarcity to an era of information chaos. In the past, the challenge was getting access to information. Now, the challenge is filtering an infinite flood of it. AI is going to put this on steroids. Soon, anyone will be able to generate a slick, convincing, data-filled investment thesis for any asset in seconds. There will be a million new gurus, a million new newsletters, a million new automated signals all screaming for your attention and your money. 99.9% of it will be sophisticated noise.
So the danger is no longer a lack of information, but an abundance of misinformation.
Precisely. And that's where sovereignty comes in. Financial knowledge sovereignty is the personal, internal ability to distinguish signal from noise. It's the capacity to consume information, understand the underlying principles, identify the biases, and make a decision based on your own well-established framework, like the crawl, walk, run system, rather than on the charisma or urgency of the source. In the next 5 years, the people who win won't be the ones with the fastest algorithm or the secret AI tool. It will be the people who have invested in their own financial literacy to the point where they are immune to the noise. It's the person who can read a headline about a market crash and, instead of panicking, recognizes it as a potential opportunity to buy according to their plan. It's the person who sees a viral TikTok about a guaranteed 10x stock and immediately recognizes the red flags of gambling, not investing. Building this sovereignty, this internal BS detector, is the ultimate defensive and offensive move you can make for your financial future. It's the one asset that can't be hacked, can't crash, and will pay dividends for the rest of your life. In the next 5 years, your greatest financial asset won't be a stock, a crypto, or a piece of real estate. It will be a well-calibrated internal BS detector. That's financial sovereignty.
Financial sovereignty. I love that term. It perfectly encapsulates this entire conversation. Taking back control. Max, this has been a truly enlightening and incredibly practical discussion. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your wisdom with us today.
The pleasure was all mine, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
And for everyone listening to WealthWise, I hope you're walking away from this with the same clarity I am. We talked about the fundamental order of operations, crawl, walk, run. We unveiled the fake rich trap with the 75-15-10 rule, and we redefined what it means to be an investor with the owner's mindset. If you found value in today's episode and it sparked something in you, I'm going to ask you to do 3 simple things. First, Share this episode with one person in your life who needs to hear this message. It could be the most valuable financial advice you give them all year. Second, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe or follow button on whatever platform you're using. We have conversations just like this one every single week, designed to help you build real, lasting wealth. And finally, join the conversation. Drop a comment below and tell us, which of these silent traps have you had to fight your way out of? The credit score myth? The house as an investment trap? The Vegas mindset? There's no shame, only shared learning. Thank you for tuning in. And always remember, the goal isn't to look rich in your social media feed. It's to be wealthy on your balance sheet.